In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about lexica, or language dictionaries, that are used in social science and how they were derived. A lexicon is a listing of words that centers around a particular topic of interest. For the purpose of social science and psychology, lexica which focus on emotions or cognition are of most interest. These lexica can be used for many purposes, such as analyzing text, for example, in therapeutic journals, coding political speeches, or as a measurement of overall mood in large groups of people. There are different ways in which the words, called terms, are gathered and how they are categorized. Some are manually created, where the people subjectively pick the words they think should be included. Others use an automatic process, either by determining frequency of use or by using statistical techniques. Some lexica are weighted, meaning that a word within a category is also given a measure of how much it is associated with that category. The four lexica I will discuss here include the Linguistic Inquiry and Word Count, NRC from the National Research Council of Canada, the Hedonometer lexicon, and PERMA, developed as part of the World Wellbeing Project, which sponsors this site. This is just a sample of the lexica that exist for psychological and social research, but they're a good place to start. First, we have the Linguistic Inquiry and Word Count, which we abbreviate as LIWC. This is the oldest and most used lexicon of the four. James W. Pennebaker led the development of this lexicon as a way to look for signs of emotional and social health based on writing style. There are about 4,500 total terms listed in this lexicon, essentially the result of educated guesses about what should be included. They were derived from dictionaries, thesauruses, and prior research work such as PANAS, the Positive and Negative Affect Schedule. Here is a very small sample of the list of terms. The asterisks allow for plurals or other ways of using the root word. So, for example, brave can be brave or bravery. The terms were all grouped into categories. On the left column of this table, you can see some of the categories used. Some categories are based on language concepts and cognitive mechanisms. Others, falling under the general concept of affect, have to do with positive and negative emotions. A given term can belong to multiple categories. For categories having to do with objective notions like part of speech, determining which words belonged where was an objective process and didn't require an aggregation of opinions. Softer analysis, like determining the emotional category, required a different approach. For this, 3 trained judges looked over the list of terms. If at least 2 out of 3 agreed that a word belonged in a certain category, then it was placed there. The original purpose of LIWC was to assess well-being and changes in well-being based on people's writing samples. They found that greater well-being is associated with more positive emotion words and fewer negative emotion words. Since the development of this lexicon, people have used it to measure things beyond emotional health. For example, gauging personality, analyzing whether a text is propaganda, or predicting academic performance based on a student's writing sample. The next lexicon is actually a sample from a group of lexica from the National Research Council of Canada and compiled under the leadership of Mohammed Saif. Like with LIWC, the terms used come from a variety of sources, like thesauruses, and results from previous research, focusing on the most frequently used words. The Word Emotion Association lexicon groups words and phrases into 10 categories. 8 of them are derived from the Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions: trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anger, anticipation, and joy. The 2 other categories are positive sentiment and negative sentiment. Each term can be assigned to 1 or more categories. For example, the word bewildered would fall into 3 categories: fear, surprise, and negative sentiment. With the LIWC lexicon, the emotional terms were assigned by 3 expert judges. But here, non-expert humans from a crowdsourcing forum called Mechanical Turk were the judges. A large group of people were set up to evaluate a list of about 14,000 words. Each word got 5 different evaluators. For each word, an individual evaluator assigned a value of strong, moderate, weak, or none to the 10 possible categories. Here you see the example with the word holiday, which has a strong association with joy and a moderate association with anticipation. The strong and moderate evaluations were lumped together into one group, as well as the weak and none evaluations. Then, if at least 3 out of 5 evaluators picked strong or moderate, the word was considered associated with that emotion or category. If at least 3 out of 5 picked weak or none, then the word was considered not associated with that category. The next NRC lexicon is the hashtag emotion lexicon. This is similar to the word emotion association lexicon in that it groups terms into the 8 categories defined by the wheel of emotions. The difference here is that it does not involve direct human judgment to determine the emotional association of the words. Instead, the word associations were derived by starting with a large number of Twitter posts or tweets. Not all tweets had hashtags, so the data was filtered down to only include tweets with hashtags appended at the end. This example tweet is from the paper written by Saif and his team that describes this lexicon in more detail. The Twitter data was further filtered down to include only the tweets with the specific emotional words you see here. A probabilistic method, Pointwise Mutual Information, or PMI, determined the emotional associations. It assigned a number indicating the weight or measure of connection to a particular emotional category. How much a word is connected to an emotion is more than just a count of how many times it appears in association with that emotion. Instead, its association with a hashtag category is taken in context with its frequency of use generally. The final NRC lexicon I'll discuss is the color lexicon. It associates different words with different colors according to the analysis of human judges. The development of this lexicon also used crowdsourcing, like the word emotion association lexicon. Some of the results are intuitive, like the association of grandmother with gray, but others are more interesting, like connecting the word recommend with green. The weight of the association was determined by the number of votes which agree, divided by the total number of voters for a given word. So the word finish, which got 2 votes for green with 4 people voting, has a weight of 0.5. The word possibility, which was given 3 votes from 5 people, receives a weight of 0.6. The third lexicon is called Hedonometer, which lists each term along with a measure of how happy or pleasant it is. It was developed by a team at the University of Vermont, led by Peter Sheridan Dodds. The terms used in the Hedonometer lexicon were pulled from 4 sources: Google Books, New York Times articles, music lyrics, and Twitter messages. From each of these sources, the top 5,000 most commonly used words were chosen. When those 20,000 words were merged into one group, the total was about 10,000 words. Crowdsourcing was used to evaluate the words, with 50 people rating each term. Then, each word was assigned a weight, determined by a formula that inputs the average score, the standard deviation, and the frequency of use in the 4 original sources. The results aren't too surprising. At the top of the list, highest weighted, are words like laughter, happiness, and love, while at the bottom are words like suicide and terrorist. The final lexicon is called PERMA, developed by the World Wellbeing Project at UPenn. In the PERMA lexicon, terms are categorized according to their association with 5 components of well-being. Well-being is rated along 5 different scales: positive or negative emotions, engagement or disengagement, positive or negative relationships, meaning or lack of meaning, and achievement or lack of achievement. Public tweets and Facebook status updates were gathered, which included details about people's lives and how they perceived things. Each tweet or status update was analyzed using Mechanical Turk crowdsourcing, with 2 annotators rating to what degree each message expressed each dimension of PERMA. If there was some disagreement or uncertainty, then a 3rd annotator was used. Once rated on each aspect of the PERMA scale, the status updates were automatically scanned to see which words were most predictive of each component of PERMA. This was done using data-driven machine learning methods to extract language features from a body of text and figure out how to weight words to be most predictive of the status update or tweet ratings. In contrast to rating words individually, this approach allows context to be taken into account and ultimately yields more accurate measurement. For more information about this, see the Open Vocabulary Analysis tutorial, also on the LexHub website. Resulting from this process, a list of terms was generated for each component of PERMA, split into their positive and negative aspects. In other words, positive emotions has a list of terms and negative emotions has a separate list of terms. Here is a sample of associated words for these categories. Note that each word has an associated weight. That weight is produced automatically using the data-driven methods mentioned before. Thus, PERMA is a weighted lexicon. LIWC, NRC, Hedonometer, and PERMA are just a few examples of language dictionaries used in social science. I hope they've given a good sense of what lexica are, how they are created, and how they are used. Thank you.